Okay.
Hey, Aiden.
Yeah.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
You know, that's a question I've pondered for many an eon. I asked the world's greatest philosophers and teachers, and even went on a soul-searching journey. And yet, despite all my time on this earth, all 21, 22 years or so, I don't know how old I am, but I have not come up with an answer to that question. So now I must ask, why? Why did the chicken cross the road, Jay?
Years and years of research and time and discovery have gone into finding this answer, but it seems like the answer is to get to the other side.
That would line up. That would line up, honestly.
They found this.
Oh, you were early enough on that one. It was so funny too, because you were like, all right, stop. And then you went. Right, the comedic timing on that was wonderful.
Yeah, I agree.
There was like a second before impact where it looked like you maybe were fine, but then you just dipped right in immediately. Not slow burn, just right in there. Just right in the lava.
That's great. Welcome back to Breath of the Wild. I'm Jay the Zoomster.
And I'm Aden of Blue Couch Productions. We have 4 episodes left.
It's insane.
We are near the end, which any of you mathematicians out there might come to figure out. Are they only going to get to episode 40? And that's the plan. Unless something goes wrong.
Unless something goes horribly awry.
The plan is 40 episodes. These next 3 wrapping up the DLC, and then the last episode being Ganon and the finale of the game. Should be fairly interesting. They should all be pretty meaty, long episodes too. So just letting you know in case Jay decided not to edit much of this, which is fine because there's a lot of good content here. But yeah, we're nearing the end, so we might as well give you guys some meaty episodes to end off the series.
It's kind of wild and to be this close to the end. I feel.
Yeah.
Like I don't really know how to feel about it. Oh come on, that counts.
Do it
that
though.
Counts.
You hit like
that.
Your paraglider touched the bottom of it. You didn't even go through it.
It counts.
Oh, you better hurry. You better hurry, Bucko. You better hurry, Bucko.
Again?
You did the same thing again. You literally did the same thing twice.
Oh.
Well. I hate to see it. It's kind of rough.
Biggest plot twist will be one of us dead by Corona by the time this episode goes out.
It would be kind of tragic.
But you know,
but at least the series would be done. So there's that.
Imagine if this was your creative swan song.
The Breath of the Wild series on Lions Honor Gaming.
If this was just it.
Wow.
The end of everything.
I've made worse things.
You know what I love about this series, Aiden?
Yes.
For the past 10 episodes, Uchakeep and Zumaz being there.
They'd be chilling the entire time.
And it's basically like a watermark.
It's basically having iFunny at the bottom of our Breath of the Wild image the entire time. Except for, unlike iFunny, which actually means something. Like when people see it, there's a reaction to it. You really only know what Uchakeep and Zumaz are doing here if you watched one particular episode of Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
And they weren't even on one of them. They just took a break for one of them too.
Yeah.
So I imagine that the legend of these two guys has gotten even more confusing as we've gone on through the series. And no, I'm still not going to explain it for anybody wanting to know.
Good.
I got to keep it a mystery. I got to keep it a mystery.
Watch every episode of the series if you don't know. Like, I don't get what's hard.
At this point, I don't even know which episode they were introduced in.
I don't either. I don't remember.
I know it was like 10 episodes ago or something. So that gives you a little hint, I guess. But I legitimately don't know at what point.
The most fucky thing about this glider challenge is the fucking inertia that you fall with when you put the paraglider up like above the lava is insane.
Yeah, you go a lot faster down, it seems.
Because that's what fucked me up the first run through whenever it was such a comedic failure, because I thought I would be okay. But no, you just, whoa.
You plummet. You plummet into the ground. You don't have any time to just chill out.
But we're making good time. We're still good. That's one challenge down.
Epic!
Despite some freaky wiki dicky tickies, we're still going good. Oh no.
Blind spots,
Oh.
baby.
Oh,
Blind spots. This be like that one scene in
no.
Chicken Run. You ever seen Chicken Run before?
No,
It's the DreamWorks movie with the chickens or whatever that's like animated by the Wallace and
I
Gromit
know
people. Or
I
whatever.
know about Chicken Run.
Yeah. So there's a scene where the chicken and rooster companion end up in the pie machine or whatever, and there's all these flames and shit that they gotta dodge in order to avoid not being turned into a fucking pie. And so I feel like this is similar,
Oh,
in which we do not want to be incinerated or
this
turned
is
into a
exactly
pie.
like Chicken Run.
Yeah. Great movie, by the
This
way.
is
I'm sure.
Basic is Chicken Run actually great?
It's probably fine. It's probably not awful. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to say it's a fucking landmark film or anything, but you know.
You know this means we gotta watch Chicken Run now, right?
The problem with watching Chicken Run is it's so early in the DreamWorks catalog that it would basically turn into watching other DreamWorks movies.
Yeah.
And that would be fine for a little while until we got to very clearly the We Stopped Caring era of DreamWorks, where they just started putting out a lot of garbage horse shit. And that would be unepic. Ah! You had a pretty good shot. You even dodged out of the way, and he was still fucking locked and loaded.
So I realized this after your recent daily Ocarina stream, which, by the way, Aiden playing Ocarina Time, epicest thing on
we
the
haven't even
planet.
talked about that yet, weirdly.
No, we haven't,
Yeah.
but go check it out on his Twitch. The VOD should still be up. If not, I'm sure you have a stream backup channel.
I don't.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
actually. And the VODs don't last all that long. So by the time this
Mother
comes
of
out,
fuck.
by the time this
That's
comes
fine.
out, they might actually all be gone. Or if they, it may be the end of the Ocarina series. I don't know. It depends. Either
You
way,
should back up your streams.
I should, but like, I don't want to do another channel for them. Is my problem. And I know this is totally not what you brought Ocarina up for, but I just want to say, like, for any content creators out there, like, that I really like keeping all my different forms of like content separate and trying to integrate them into like other things that I do just makes it so much more work. Like, Twitch is relaxing to me, right? I love streaming on Twitch, and it's a fun time to hang out with people. When you start turning it into work where you have to put the VODs on YouTube, that's when I lose interest.
Mhm.
And I know that's lazy, and a lot of people do it, so I probably should too. But like, I don't care about running a fucking Twitch VOD channel in current year.
I get that. I just think that like that it could be beneficial to have those streams, because those are fun streams, and that's like a playthrough of like Ocarina that would otherwise just vanish.
Well, like,
And sure, there's clips, but like,
think about it this way, right? Each stream is 3 hours, and very, very rarely, even in this current stream that I just did, the Forest Temple, is 3 hours of the Forest Temple. Now, would you rewatch 3 hours of Aiden fucking around in a Forest Temple? Like, I would almost have to edit it if I were to put the VOD up anywhere.
I mean, plenty of
and that's more
people
work.
do.
I don't want to put more work into it.
I think plenty of people genuinely do watch VODs, especially if they're like just fucking around.
I do.
That's
I watch those VODs
So,
all
like,
the time, but like, I don't know
there'd
if
be an
people would
audience
watch
for it to where, and I would keep it mainly just because I like keeping things that I've created, and that includes streams.
Yeah.
So like I just point is, if you can find them, they're really great streams. If he's still streaming it, because he very well could be.
Yeah, it's a long game.
Because he's done a lot of it and hasn't and is still pretty early in the game. So like there's a chance he still might be streaming.
Yeah.
But like, point is, great stream. If you can find it, I recommend watching it because it's great. But my point and why I brought it up was, I realized what it's like to hear a homie react before seeing it on screen.
Oh yeah, stream delay.
How's that like for Breath of the Wild? Because I know there's been times where I've reacted by like screaming or something, and then you see what happens later.
It's not that big of a delay on OBS specifically on my end, than it would be through the stream. I don't know how crazy the stream delay is, but it's like less than a second to where I see what you're screaming at. Not immediate, but it's so minimal that it almost doesn't even make a difference for me personally.
Okay, because it's similar to what I was seeing on your stream with like seeing you react to something and then the game react to something and then seeing it on the game. Whereas like I watched you when you were fighting Phantom Ganon, you went fuck because you got hit by the energy.
Yeah.
And then I saw you get hit by the energy right after you said it.
Well, that
and so like I was wondering if that was something that like had frustrated you before in the series, or if it's like just something that you even noticed.
No, not really. I think a lot of why that happens on my stream is just the Elgato I have. A lot of the newer ones, like they like perfectly match up with what you're what you're playing on the TV. So like there's no delay at all. So you can actually play it off the OBS preview window. And that's like really cool. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those. So there's a little bit of delay between what's happening on my TV screen versus what you guys see on the stream. And of course, Twitch adds their own delay through there. And while I'm sure there is a little bit of it that goes into this series just because I'm looking at an OBS preview through Discord, it's never been really all that bad or crazy.
Because there's like a 1.5 to 2 second delay between things I do and then like when it goes on to OBS. But like I've noticed, like by your reactions, you basically see what I do without really much issue.
Yeah.
So it kind of just works on its own.
I also sometimes delay reactions until it's like after it sometimes, so I can talk about it, I guess, a little bit. But that's just something I picked up doing commentary on a lot of co-op series, just because like you're never really going to get the exact same experience when you're doing co-op stuff like this.
Oh, for sure.
And it's a bit frustrating, but it's also like we don't really have another option. Like ideally, in the best case scenario, I would just like it to be two homies on a couch in real time seeing the exact same stuff. Like,
oh, absolutely.
To me, that's when commentary of like co-op channels really pop off, when they're in the same place at the same time and we can just flow back and forth and there's no delay at all. But like we live in different states, there's a bit of time in there. You guys are an hour ahead and trying to do things through OBS. Even back in the day in Skype, especially, I remember that being a huge issue, where you just have to sort of fight the delay.
It got to a point
it's frustrating.
with Skype when I would like have like a series. I had a channel with Parker where instead of Skype screen share, I just downloaded the program TeamViewer and just watched on his computer because Skype screen share was such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And speaking of, I want to give major props to the Discord devs for bringing in screen share and improving it so much in the past year or so.
Yeah, night and day.
Because when Discord screen share came out, it was
dog shit.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was not that functionable. If you used it, it was like it said 720, but like generally you would have like 480 quality, and it was laggy and choppy no matter how good your internet was. Now it's really, really damn good. The fact that I can stream like OBS at like it's streaming at 1080 right now.
Yeah.
For Aden. And with like very little choppy or lag or anything, that's just insane.
It's really neat.
And it's really good that they were able to do that.
So the delay certainly for recording co-op stuff has gotten better. And with things like Parsec, it can be almost instantaneous.
Oh, absolutely.
If you get the right like internet settings down and stuff. Or like using things like Rabbit or streaming services for movies if you're doing commentary with that sort of stuff. But there's still a little bit of it there, and it's annoying. And it's like, not to say that our commentary is bad or anything, but I know personally it could potentially be even better if like it was actually happening in person and we weren't having to go through the internet and have to deal with everybody's internet connection and OBS and everything in between.
Oh, for sure. And of course, one day that could easily happen.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like saying that will never happen. I could even do a series with Parker if I wanted to, like that. But like, it would definitely be cooler. I'd love to do a series like that too. Even if it was something that like happened only once, it would be really cool.
Yeah.
To have just like
it's a different vibe.
a
It's a different
series like
energy about it
Absolutely.
that I really like.
That's how. Uh-oh. Come on. Don't do this.
Ruh-roh, Racky.
Pretty sure we're supposed to do this.
Okay, King.
No, fuck. Yeah, I'm sure. So I figured out what I have to... Motherfucker!
Yeah? Did you figure it out? Did you figure out what you had to do there?
Yeah, I figured out this is a bullshit one of these. You have to stand on fucking lava, dude.
It ain't that bad. You just gotta stand on it the right way.
Yeah, you're right, Aiden. You just gotta stand on it the right way.
Oh, shit. Oh, I hope you land that. Because that looks like a rough spot.
Oh, there we go, baby! Woo!
It technically counted, didn't it? It technically
If
counted.
it didn't, I'm gonna have a literal seizure. Wow.
Ayo. Ayo. Gotta wait for the animation to fully finish, you see.
The dumb shittery is mostly optional.
Yeah, like this. We don't technically have to do this. We're doing it for the people at home. But
Aiden, we could just beat the game if we wanted.
at any point, the series could literally be over. But no. You wanted to do the DLC. And I've had fun doing the DLC. Let me just say. I've had a blast
Imagine
doing the
being
DLC.
Nintendo and being like, what if for a challenge they gotta land in lava, dude?
It'll be kind of epic. Just burn to death. Like there ain't no point in that. The shrine gonna be there when you get out of the lava. Link fine, dude. He ain't got to worry about getting back anywhere. He can burn to death, incinerate. It don't matter. He just gets right back up.
Man's not hot, dude. Where?
I don't know where the thing was. It sprouted up out of the ground. I just don't know where.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There we go.
I was about to have a shit fit.
No, it showed up. Once it showed up, you know, it stays there.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Okay, here we go, kings. Yay! And queens.
King and queen shit. Hell yeah.
Obama.
Another gamer shrine for another gamer day.
Oh no.
What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be?
Bro, let me show you how to do this one, Aiden.
Block the blaze, bro. You did it! Congrats! Good job. That was so optimal, bro.
I think so. Oh.
Oh, even better. A twofer right there. He gonna go for 3. He gonna go for 3. He gonna go for 3. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh shit, he really do be ducking though. Okay. Pop
You
off.
really do be ducking, though. Sometimes the anime protagonist loses twice.
This is true.
Wise words from Jimmy Fallon.
Good old Jimmy Fallon. Never done anything wrong in recent memory.
Good old Jimmy Neutron, dude.
Jimmy Neutron actually never did anything wrong.
I agree.
He's what we call a snake.
This episode will probably come out after I've already rewatched all of Jimmy Neutron, so
Oh, really?
that'll be really epic.
It's an epic show.
I really like
I can't say I totally cared for it as a kid. I just kind of thought this looked ugly as sin. Fuck this. I got Cartoon Network shit to watch. I wasn't much of a Nickelodeon kind of guy.
No,
But as
you were
I've gotten
one of
older,
those kids.
I know. But as I've gotten older, I've started to appreciate Jimmy Neutron's more exquisite aspects. In particular, its humor that I find to be really, really enjoyable.
It do be one of the best written kids comic shows.
Like Rick and
It
Morty.
got some. No. not like Rick.
What do you mean not like Rick and Morty, bro?
I mean, there was never a Pickle Jimmy episode of Jimmy
As
Neutron.
far as you know. They had a lot of episodes of Jimmy Neutron. You can't say you watched all of them.
I have watched enough to know there was never a Pickle Jimmy. Well, there was like Hamster Jimmy.
What are
so.
what are you gonna do if you get through if you're watching all these and a Pickle Jimmy episode pops up on your screen? What are you gonna do?
I would text you and just say Aden, and just send an image of Pickle Jimmy and hope that you remember this conversation.
I probably won't. That's the best part. I'll be like, what the fuck? Why you send me a picture of Pickle Jimmy? Oh no. What is this?
You gotta get it so that you don't get touched by the fire.
Motion controls in my country? You must be out of your mind.
In my country, we call this torture.
It's pretty similar to torture. Okay. Alright, he do be turning it though. the fact that Lake bounces from it, right? He hits the flame and like rubber, he bounces off to the side. I think that's what I like about it so much.
How am I supposed to?
Because realistically,
so there's no fire on.
You would just be on fire and you'd maybe run. But Link, he treats it like a bullet hit him, or like he jumped off a trampoline, and he just boop off into the pit below.
I'm trying to find like a good like.
So those side things block it from the sides, and that middle path is for the middle. You got to line it up in such a way though, and I don't.
Oh.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh.
You were just turning it the wrong way.
Oh. I knew that.
There we go. Sometimes it's the obvious answers.
Yeah.
I find a lot of times, especially with Zelda, and this is from firsthand experience doing the Ocarina streams, having somebody who's like not involved in it that can just kind of like come at it from a fresh perspective and be like, oh yeah, just do this, is so valuable. Because like,
oh yeah,
for me, I'm so involved in like trying to outthink it and trying to see all these crazy patterns and trying to like go 8 steps ahead, and then I'll get lost and confused and like not understand it. But then if you have someone like Ethan or Jay or even Kyle to go, oh, what happens if you just do that? And it's the most obvious answers.
Aden in his Ocarina streams will be like doing calculus equations, like I gotta do this, hit this the right way, and then and then Kyle or I will be like, have you pressed this button?
Yeah.
And just like, oh, no, I haven't. Thank you.
I overthink a shit ton of stuff in Zelda. I think that's ultimately like why I don't have as much fun with these games as I potentially could, because I take these very easy problems on the surface level and over exaggerate them and equate them to being like Dark Souls difficulty, when it's really not. It's just simple shit. It's always simple shit.
The best part about Aden Ocarina streams is when Condescending Jay shows up, because he's the best. Because he just be like, Aden.
I know when Jay types Aden in the chat, it's either one of 2 things. Like, number 1, he's gonna tell me how like he's mad at something he just did in the game, or he's mad at some media or food, or he'll say Aden and he's about to tell me like why I fucked up what I just did. And I never know which one is which because I can't tell by the tone, right? So I always just have to flip a coin and guess. Is he gonna be mad at his Ocarina gameplay or mine? So it really just
And
depends.
the answer may surprise
The
you.
answer usually does surprise me. You know, one of
There's
the,
just
one of the
some.
things that fucked me up in this Forest Temple one
Hmm.
recently, and I don't think you were here for this one, but you know what I'm talking about. So in the Forest Temple, there are these twisty hallways.
Yeah. The
Um,
best part of the dungeon.
they're really cool. They're a really cool effect for the N64. I was shocked by them the first time. Like, oh, this is a really neat effect. And you go out of the twisty hallways and you see this room that's like on all over the place. And so, like, I'm assuming somehow the gravity gets flipped around, or like you have to have like boots or something, or the specific item, or maybe the bow to like shoot through the holes or get something to fall down. There's multiple points in the child dungeons where like you're shooting at stuff to get a ladder to fall down or a block or something like that. So I'm just trying to think it through, trying to be like, how do I get this shit to move? And then I looked on the polygon guide, and it's like, oh, hit the eye again so that the hallway recontorts. I'm like, what the fuck? Recontort the hallway? I didn't know you could do that. And so sure enough, I go up to the eye, I shoot it again, and the hallway changes, and I'm like, how the fuck was I supposed to figure this shit out? Like, a lot of the time it's usually my fault, like I'm not thinking straight, or like I'm just trying to overcomplicate it. That was one of them where I was like, okay, fuck them. Like I would have not figured out about the recontorting hallway.
Yeah.
And even Kyle said he basically just got lucky at that part and just shot the eye accidentally and noticed the hallway recontorted, and I'm like, oh, I see.
I have a lot of things in Ocarina that like I just know from like muscle memory. And it's, if any of you have listening out there want a very good video about that, check out like the Rasputin video about like gaming for a non-gamer, where he mentions a lot of like gaming's language, or like how to sprint in Mario, the first game. The game never teaches you how to do it.
No.
He picked it up from either people telling him to do it or something he read. And I feel like 95% of how I know to play Ocarina is picked up by people telling me, or the fact that I read it somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I just know how to do it now.
I think it's
because that game
especially with Zelda games, like they almost have their own complete unique way of how to solve puzzles and dungeons. Like that's what the Zelda series is known for, their creative dungeons and problem solving. And very few games work like Zelda does. And so like if you haven't really played one of them before, or if you're having a first time playthrough, like a lot of that shit takes way longer than Nintendo was probably expecting. But that's because like they built it and they play tested it like 1,000 times, and I'm sure it made sense to them. And it makes sense to a lot of people who play it over and over again. But something I'm just like grasping is that a lot of Zelda games on their first playthrough are not fun. Like you basically just have to like be aware that your first playthrough may not be the experience you want it to be, and that you're more than likely gonna have to play it again to get everything out of the Zelda game, personally. And that's not to say some stuff like isn't fun the first time. Like a lot of the exploration is fun. Boss fights are pretty self-explanatory the first time, and you gradually learn new mechanics so that later dungeons aren't as bad as earlier ones. But for the most part, there is dead ass a learning curve in especially in Zelda games. And like if you haven't played a whole lot of them before, or if it's your first playthrough, it's going to be a lot harder than someone like Jay, who's probably played it 1,000 times.
I have played it 1,000 times.
But that's what's cool about me Twitch streaming it, I think, is it like gives an opportunity to see, oh, this is what someone looks like when they haven't played Ocarina. Like, and I'm sure I'm worse than a lot of other people, but given my experience, I think it's cool to at least share that with people.
I think the good news is, especially for you if you want to get more into Zelda, is that you like
We find a fire
it
palace,
doesn't
by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very simple to grasp, like everything else in Zelda after playing one of them. Most other Zelda games that you'll play will be a lot easier for you to grasp.
That's probably the case.
After you've like played Ocarina.
There were probably easier Zeldas to start with.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where I really fucked up. Like, I probably should have just played fucking, like, Wind Waker, or, like, actually beaten Breath of the Wild before going back trying to do Ocarina.
I genuinely think that your best option, I gotta go get ice arrows. Your best option would have been Twilight Princess.
Yeah, okay.
For your first game, because it's basically Ocarina of Time, down to like everything in that game. There's a couple new things like a sky dungeon, an ice temple, and everything, but like its bare bones format is just Ocarina of Time. The entire game, Ganondorf's one step ahead of you. You fuck up, Ganondorf gets the upper hand, or maybe it's Zant this time. But the whole thing is generally Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also just is a better Ocarina of Time. And again, I love Ocarina of Time. It's my favorite game, but it's outdated and has a lot of issues because of the datedness. And so Twilight Princess is a much stronger game on its own, and a much easier game with better dungeon design, better bosses, and is just overall, I think, a stronger entry in the series.
That's fair.
So I feel like for a perfect starting Zelda, it's either that, or if you want like a really easy bitch challenge, Wind Waker.
Well, I need to learn the language more than anything. It's not so much that like I'm looking for like a crazy challenge. I need like a safe environment to learn this shit.
Yeah,
you know.
And I think the safe environment to learn it would probably be like would still probably be Twilight Princess.
The only thing I worry about that game specifically is like lengthwise it's longer.
Yeah, that's like one of the
which is why I would never touch Skyward Sword first, because like fuck that. Like if I don't like it, it's 50 hours of it, and I'm never gonna get through
also it. Skyward Sword isn't really indicative of Zelda.
Yeah.
That's very much like the antithesis of Breath of the Wild, where it's still a very like different Zelda game.
Well, like very few of them are when you really get down to it. Like there's Ocarina, which is standard 3D Zelda, right? If that's the baseline. Then we have Majora, which is fucking out in its own ether, right? Doing its funny haha time shit.
Yeah.
It takes shit from Ocarina, sure, and it looks similar, but they are not the same game. They're not even on the same series, like half the time. And then you have Wind Waker, which do be taking bits from Ocarina, but mainly
I'd say Wind
Zelda,
Waker is
like
I'd say Wind Waker's still traditional Zelda. I'd still say it's traditional 3D Zelda. It's got a lot in line with Ocarina. But then I get what you're saying, and then you get Twilight Princess, which, like I said, is
more of that, and then Skyward Sword is wild, and then fucking like Breath of the Wild wild as well. Literally
for completely separate reasons too.
Yeah.
For completely opposite reasons.
And so like you can just play like half of the 3D Zelda games and still not really get what type of game Ocarina might be. Like if you pick certain entries, like I don't know who that hypothetical person would be that's only played like Skyward Sword, Majora, in this game. But it could exist out there, I'm sure. I'm sure there's that one homie.
Oh, don't fuck me up, please.
But it's just interesting. It's just interesting. Where I feel like a lot of 2D Zelda, at least from what I've played, while there is a little bit of that learning curve, it's not nearly as strict a lot of the time. Those are still games where you need walkthroughs for sure, but very rarely are you going to get something as like complicated in terms of dungeon layouts. It's usually like fairly simple for the most part, and that's just partially because it's in 2D, right? And you're not having to like look around you and think about space and height and like a Z-axis and all that sort of shit. It's just a lot easier to understand something like Link to the Past or the original Zelda than it is
For
something
sure.
like Ocarina. But maybe it's
And
not
that
if
being
like you grew up
said,
with
it's
3D,
like-
right? Who knows?
It's I was gonna say it's kind of like the exact opposite for me, because again, you know, I'm a huge Zelda fan, but I got a really large hot take in my Zelda opinions, where I'm not a fan of 3D Zelda or 2D Zelda. In fact, I actually greatly dislike 2D Zelda the more I've played of it, and I haven't quite figured out why, but it's just like I just really prefer the I don't know, like the 3D feel of it. I feel like it's a series that greatly benefits from 3D.
For me personally, something I've really enjoyed about Ocarina that I never really got in the original or even Link to the Past is just a sense of atmosphere, man. Like each place in Ocarina has a mood and a feeling about it And while the 2D Zeldas have definitely tried, at least from what I've played of the original Link to the Past, a lot of them just kind of like repeat, like this is a dungeon, right? And so all the dungeons feel exactly the same. Like a lot of the overworld feels exactly the same. And the music is still good at trying to separate and give different tones, but like it can't go that far into it because these are basically like games from the 80s and 90s that don't have a ton of lore and background around it. Whereas 3D Zelda is all about the tiny details and the atmosphere and the architecture and like all this sort of shit. And they go into so much detail with it that it's like, it's a lot easier to get immersed into Hyrule in a game like Ocarina, despite it looking as crazy and 90s as it does. Specifically because like Nintendo with 3D Zelda is really good at atmosphere and tone. Whereas 2D Zelda, I think, is a lot better at like being fairly simple and easy to understand right away.
Yeah, and like I've played A Link to the Past, and I really actually like that game. And yeah, that game is a lot easier to kind of understand than something like Ocarina. Like I was able to play A Link to the Past without needing a single walkthrough for like most of the game. Oh, first try.
Look at you. Look at you.
You know what also sucks?
What?
Motion control shrine.
This is true. 2D Zelda never had to deal with motion control shrines. So honestly, it's kind of a wash.
One could say 2D never had to deal with motion controls at all.
This is epic. You can't make Skyward Sword on the Super Nintendo, right? Like, so I feel like there's something to be said in that.
Super Nintendo Skyward Sword would probably be a better game, though.
But they just take out the motion controls, or be like, no, you have to waggle the SNES controller to give like haptic feedback to it.
And I say this as a fan of Skyward Sword. I think that Skyward Sword without motion controls is a better Skyward Sword. My dad was on some crack shit, talking about how they could port Skyward Sword to the Switch and just get rid of the motion controls. I'm like, no.
Unless they remaking the game from the ground up, I don't know how the fuck that's supposed to happen.
Unless the game is just utterly recreated, you're stuck with motion controls. Yeah. Even if it's gonna have to be shitty Joy-Con motion controls. The only way that game getting ported is with motion controls.
With the Joy-Con HD Rumble, baby.
Unless they like map like horizontal strikes to one button and vertical to another.
Yeah.
So like Y is horizontal strike and then X is vertical strike, but then you're missing a button, right? You're losing a button that you could use for something else.
The way I would conceive it, it'd just be one of those games that works better in handheld mode. So you would just get touchscreen functionality for those things, and it would work better.
That'd be interesting.
And in that case, they've done that with a couple of Wii U ports where it just feels nicer on the thing, and you could still technically do it in TV mode, but it's not preferable.
But yeah, if they do port Skyward Sword, you're getting it with Joy-Con motion controls. That being said, honestly, if you Aiden or anyone watching want my actual take on if they're gonna port Skyward Sword, I don't think they are.
Probably not, because
it's a lot of hassle, and Skyward Sword is not a well-loved game.
No.
Nintendo is very well aware of the reception to Skyward Sword and how people feel about it.
I think so. It's also a thing too at that point where like people are very weird about remakes, and I guess this is something we can sort of get into, but like at a certain point for me personally, a game like Skyward Sword is so young that it doesn't need to be remade. Like,
I agree.
For me, I come from like a lot of the Pokemon games where it's like Fire Red and Leaf Green happened because you can't transfer Pokemon from Red and Blue on a Game Boy over to the newer systems. Like, it was technologically impossible, right? And so they made Fire Red and Leaf Green because it had been 10 years at that point, and hardware had advanced so far past the original Game Boy that they felt the need to remake it. The same thing with Johto, right? Couldn't transfer Pokemon over, let's make Heart Gold and Soul Silver. and you know, the thing about Game Boy cartridges and their batteries are dying out a lot of the time, and you can't even save those games anymore after a certain period of time. So it's just like technology had really caught up to those games. Um, and I feel the same about console games. Like remaking something like Ocarina of Time and Mario 64 makes sense because those games are dated in a lot of horrible ways.
Mhm.
And having a more modern version of them that not just looks better, but like adds and fixes functionality, like that's the point of a remake. Like a lot of
I
people are
just wish
like,
those two ports were available on home consoles.
yeah, they should be. Absolutely. And ports are an
Like,
entirely different game. But like
mhm.
when people say, "Oh, I want them to remake the Mario Galaxy games." You're not really going to be adding functionality to it. It would just be a thing where it would look nicer. And I like
Yeah.
Mario Galaxy more than the next guy, but like Wii's are still pretty common. Mario Galaxy is not a hard to find game. You can get it digitally on the Wii U. And like Mario Galaxy 2 came out like what, 2011 or something? It hadn't even been 10 years for that game. 2010 or something? Like
Mhm.
and I feel the same about a game like Skyward Sword that came out near the end of the Wii's life. Like it would be pointless just to remake it and just make it look nicer. Like you would have to actually go in there and like do as your dad said, where like they got rid of the motion controls and stuff, but they're not going to do that. You and I both know they're not going to go out of their way to do that for a game like Skyward Sword that was not received well. Like they're not going to bother. So I really hate the, like, especially with Nintendo fans, but I guess like all around the gaming industry, this like idea that all these different games need a remake when there hadn't been enough time passed to make it worthwhile.
Mhm.
Like, you know, like the only reason, and I mean the only reason we got things like Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD was not out of a desire to make those games better. It was because Breath of the Wild took 5 fucking years. And they're like, oh shit, we're not gonna have any Zelda on our Wii U. We need to put something out. And so they did that, like, and that's what they put out. And Grezzo was very talented with Majora's Mask and Ocarina and made some interesting changes. Whether or not you agree with them or not, they at least made them different to the original games. Like, the idea that like somehow Nintendo would go out of their way to remake Skyward Sword when they're actively working on Breath of the Wild 2, and we still have Zelda stuff coming out like Link's Awakening, I don't know, that just doesn't make much sense to me. Right? Like, give it a little space at least. Give it a little bit of time.
I just cheesed the hitboxes right there.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah. We cheesed regular Fireblight too, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But you get what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, no, and the thing with, I could talk for ages about Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD and why those are both bad remakes. In terms of like actually adding functionality, and Lord knows, like you said, those are only on the console because one, no new Zelda until the very end of the Wii U, and two, Wii U library was awful, so they were just putting out shit. They needed something to put out, and they thought, let's just remake 2 popular games. And granted, Wind Waker HD, gorgeous, looks amazing in high definition, and they added actually a lot of cool things. I'm gonna retract my statement. I think Wind Waker HD is a good remake because it adds like bottom screen functionality and real-time item management, and the map is on the bottom screen, and it's really cool. TP HD is the complete opposite. Twilight Princess, honestly, is not a game that I think ever should have been given an HD upscale.
Yeah.
Because part of what makes that game work for me visually is that it's got a lot of like fog and like dark. It's dark. It's visually dark to hide the issues with the game, right?
The imperfections.
Nintendo did that on purpose.
Yeah.
They made it dark to hide imperfections. So when they made the new HD version, shit's just bright, and you can really tell the problems with it.
Yeah.
And not only that, but a lot of the gamepad support is gone. It just feels a lot lamer. So it feels like that was only made because that was what, 2016, when the Wii U was really in its
Slump.
having issues. Yeah. And like, I guess they saw, oh, Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild originally, I think, had a 2016 release date.
Yeah, it got delayed
Like,
so many different times.
And so I feel like Nintendo was like, shit, we're gonna delay Breath of the Wild again. Wind Waker HD did amazingly. Let's just shit out Twilight Princess port.
Yeah.
And they did. And that's what we got. And I feel like that's what we'd end up getting with Skyward Sword.
Or,
in my opinion.
or at least if you're gonna do it, like, wait long enough, right? Like,
wait long enough.
Yeah, like, wait.
It's
Wii is dead and gone. We're through with the Switch, and we've had other Zelda games that came after Breath of the Wild, to where, like, if Nintendo feels like they have something new to say with Skyward Sword, then go ahead, right? But, like, at this point in time, Skyward Sword is literally the second newest entry, like, not counting.
And it is
obviously, it is the second newest entry in the Zelda series.
And it's only turning 10 years old next year.
Yep. It is still perfectly playable. You can play it on the Wii U. You can play it on the Wii. If you want a port of it, fine. But, like, asking for a remake, I feel like is bizarre. And it's bizarre in a lot of games. It's not just Skyward Sword.
It's digitally available on the Wii U, too.
Yeah.
You don't even need the Wii copy. You can buy it for, like I think it's cheap on the Wii U as well.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So, like, and again, I'm not usually passionate about, like, keeping ports or keeping games on the console they came out on, but, like, Skyward Sword, one of the few games I played where it is 100% and absolutely a game on that console.
Yeah.
And I just feel like to put Skyward Sword on another console, that would just be wrong and ruin the game and take out part of its identity. So that's my stance on Skyward Sword, and whether or not to remake it. And it looks like we're out of time for the episode because we beat Daruk's song.
We did it. That wasn't too bad. We had a little bit of a stumble near the beginning, but otherwise we kind of clean shot.
And just like all the other Divine Beasts, and how we went with the fire one, it's the shortest one so far.
It always seems to be. It always seems to be.
So thank you all for watching. Hope you had a great time. I know I did. And I will catch you in the next episode where we tackle where we started all of the Divine Beasts back in episode 10.
Ooh.
Zora shit.
Yeah,
baby. So go ahead and leave a like. Comment down below your thoughts on if you want to see Skyward Sword remade for the Switch. Because some people might have a completely other idea and thought on it, and that'd be interesting to see.
What's your stance on remakes in general? Like, can it? Do you have to wait long enough? Are you like me, where you're like wait a little bit of time before remaking it, or are you like the sooner the better? I'd be interested.
There you go. Thank you all, and I hope you have a very super duper epic day.
Peace.